Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Gana Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Vande Gurashi Charanara Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Varitramadhyam Manasurasena Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Varitramadhyam Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Shri Vigrahara Tana Nityanana Shringara Tanma Niramajanado Tana Nityanana Juktasya Bhaktamsya Niyunjatapi Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Vande Gurashi Charanara Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasad Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasada Satana Kridvaiva Tripte Bhajato Shadeva Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Shiradikama Gavayara Para Madhurya Lila Gunarupa Namna Shiradikama Madhurya Lila Pratikshana Swa Dhanalalupasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Ne kunjayono rati keli siddhai Jayali bhir juktir apekshaniya Ne kunjayono rati keli siddhai Jayali bhir apekshaniya Tatrati daksha ativalabhasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Ativalabhasya Sakshadharitain samasta shastre Ruktastatthava Gataiva sadve Kintu prabhoja priya eva tasya Pande gurashi charanara vrindam Pande gurashi charanara Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi Yasya prasadam bhagavat prasadam Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi Dayam stuvam tasya yasatrin sandhyam Vande gurashi charanara vrindam Dayam stuvam yasatrin sandhyam Vande gurashi Dayam stuvam tasya yasatrin sandhyam Vande gurashi charanara vrindam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Mine Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachattari Shatarine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachattari Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Yaraya Namah, Krishna Jadavaya Namah, Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah, Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudam, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Bo, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhav, Radha Nila Madhav Radhe. Jaya Jagana, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Sitaram, 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 Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Pramanande, Hari Hari Haribo, Jai Vishwapara Paramansa Prabha, Jakachara Sutra Sivasana. जीवन के सभत्र भक्ति विराम समाराश्र को पार की जाए इसकॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि संस्थापक आचार्य वैष्णव श्रमणि पतित पावन शिल भोपाल जी महाराज की जय श्री गौर गुरु वर्गापति उद्धार की जय श्री रूप सनातन भद्र गुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास गुण सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय जय अनंत कुटी वैष्णव वृंद की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासारि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद श्रीमान गौरंग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि मावरनाय अवतार की जय गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरि नाम संकीर्तन जय की जय जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय बृहद मृदांग ट्रांसडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप राधा कुंड श्यामकुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय श्री ब्रज वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय तेलोशिव श्री राधा नीलमाधव की जय श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय जय परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय श्री पुरुषोत्तम कित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु स्मस्पोद्र देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशना करुण सिंहरे भगवान की जय गंगा माय जमुना माय की जय तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय श्री मथुरा रानी की जय समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय निताय गौरी प्रेमानंदे हरि all glories to somebody bodies all glories to somebody bodies all glories to somebody bodies all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Namaste. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Pralada la da da Pralada la da da Hiranyakashipu Vaksha Silatangkanakala Ito nisinga parato nisinga Ito nisinga parato nisinga Jato jato jamita to nisinga Bairi nisinga Rudaye nisinga Narasinga Magni Sharana Prapade Tabakara Kamalavare Naka Adabutta Sringa Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanabringa Kesavadita Narari Rupa Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Sabadata Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Sabadata Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jaya Nisingade Jaya Nisingade Nisingade Jaya Nisingade Jaya Nisingade Nisingade Jaya Nisingade Jaya Narahari Jaya Narahari Narahari Jaya Narahari Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Bhakta Prahlad Prahlad Mara Bhakta Prahlad Sila Prahlad Mara Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jai Shri Bhakti Pada Sarvighnashna Kanishingare Bhagavan ki jai, Bhakta Shrestha Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan Jagat ki jai. Nitai Gaurari Premanande Hari Hari Shri Vrindai Tulasi Divai Priyaye सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादि देवी सतवताये वृंदाई तुलसी देवाई प्रियाय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादि देवी सतवताये नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादि देवी सतवताये नमः। जय श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदादेवी की जय। Sing.
Namo Namah Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namah
Tulasi Krishna Prayasi
Namo Namah Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namah Prayasi Namo Namah Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Ye Abhilasi Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Ye Abhilasi Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Ye Abhilasi Ye Tumhara Saran Loy Tara vancha purna hoy Kripa kori koro tare Vrindavana vasi Moraye Abhilas Vilas Kunjari Ovas Layane Ribosada Jugalaru Parasi Yene Vedanadaro Sakiranu Kata Koro सेवादि कर दिए कर निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दास कोई ये न मोरा होय श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न बासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न बासी यानी कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ते प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ते प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ते प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani. Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prani Devi Shatavataye Namah. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prani Devi Shatavataye Namah. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prani Devi Shatavataye Namah. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, make him resident of Vrindavana. My desire is that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of the aims of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always fame and love Shri Radha and Govinda Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikyastakam ki Jai. Jaito Darpanamajana Bhava Mahada Bhagni Nivapanam Shri Akari Vachandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadu Jivanam Anandam Vadivardhanam Pradipadam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatmasnam Parampara Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatratita Niyamita Shmarane Nakala Ita Grishitara Kripaya Bhagavan Bhakti Durdaiva Midisham Yajanina Nuraga Vinadapi Sunichena Darorati Saishana Amani Namadina Kirtaniya Sadari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadishaka Maye Mama Janmane Janmanishwari Bhavata Bhakti Raituki Tvai Vainandatanu Jakinkaram Paritama Visame Bhavam Buddhu Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sitaduli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galara Shrudharaya Bharanam Gadagada Rudaya Gira Purakai Sitam Vapokara Tavanama Grahane Bhavisati Juga Itam Nimishena Chakyusa Pravusa Itam Shunya Itam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahe Name Aslishava Padaratam Pinastumam Adarshanad Marmahatam Karotuva Jatata Thava Vidadhatulam Patu Matpranatastu Saivana Para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhyastakam ki Jai. Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Prudayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Tishe Namaha. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart with the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life with repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There's not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than stroll in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want the Akasa devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, somehow or other I am falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or make me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He's completely free to do anything and everything, for the Lord is my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kirstakam Ki Jai. Mahavadana Krishna Prem Parati Krishna Chaitanya Guru Vishnu. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the names of the demigods, the Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures pursuant of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretations to the holy name of the Lord. 8. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting for the name of the Lord. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna, one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are often Vedas as fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting with the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Jai Vancha Kalpataruvascha Kripa Sindhu Vivascha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Jai Ananta Kochi Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai.
Shikuru Vastika prayers TJ. Om Aganyata Mirandasya Jana Salakaya Chaksurum Viditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sakayam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tatati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatahapachkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pradam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sa Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Namo Om Drupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamine Shivarsavanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaya Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhu Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gaurakishwaraya Saksharvairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitanandanamine Gaurashakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Purayate Gauravir Baba Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Savabhuma Sri Jaganatayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Turabhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Chase Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Suraturpangur Mama Manda Matergati Matsarva Swapadambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpradramadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasa Rambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswaner Gopir Gopinatak Striyestana Tapta Kanchana Kurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanus Tute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudhi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Brahma Samiti Ki Jai, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarvakarana Karanam, Chentamani Prakarasat Masukalpa Riksha, Laksabritesa Surabhira Bibaliantam, Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambrahma Sevyamanam, Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami, Venam Kanantam Aravinda Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam, Kandar Pakotika Mania Vishesha Sobam, Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami, Alola Chandra Kalasadvanamaya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam, Shamam Chibanga Lalitani Taprakasam, Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agni Angani Yasisa Kalendriya Rittimanti Pasyanti Pantikayanti Chiram Chaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purisham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabhavam Durlabham Atma Vakto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastikoti Satavatsara Samprakam Vayoratapi Manaso Maripungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadistim Yavichintya Tatve Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chaitum Jagaranda Kotim Yas Chaktirasti Jagaranda Chaya Yadanta Dantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Deyo Manajastataiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusaha Suktarya Maven Nigamai Pratitaistavanti Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasapati Bhavita Bhirya Vigoloka even if Satakilatma Bhutto, Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Viluchanena Santaksa Devi Desu Vilokayanti Yam Sham Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menitistana Avatar Makarod Bhuvanesh Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumam Yo Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhuto Jagaranda Koti Koti Swasesu Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Sabhutam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Mayahi Yasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Jagun Yatad Visayavida Vitayamanam Sadva Volambi Parasatvam Visuddha Satvam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manastu Yaprani Nam Pativalam Sparatam Upetya Lila Yatina Bhuvanani Jaya Jasram Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nichadamni Tarechatasya Devi Maheswari Dama Sute Sutesu Tete Prabhavani Chaya Vitasya Yena Govinda Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Srishti Stati Pralaya Sadhava Sakti Reka Chaye Vyasya Bhuvanandi Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Apyasya Chachesta Tesa Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Vishesi Yoga Sanjaya Tena Itata Pritakaste Hetu Yasam Bhatama Tvitatastam Paitikaya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Diparcha Devita Santaram Abhipetya Dipayate Virita Hetu Samana Dharma Yastadrik Evicha Vishnu Tayavibhati Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narnava Jale Bharachismaga Nidram Ananta Jagranda Saruma Kupa Adhara Saktim Avalambya Param Smavartim Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamata Avalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagranda Nata Vishnur Mahansa Yasya Kalavi Seso Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Basman Yatasma Sakalesuna Jesu Tejas Riyam Kiyat Prakatayata Pitat Vadatra Brahmaya Esa Jagranda Vidanu Karta Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Binidai Kumbhasan Dwande Pranamasmayesa Kanadi Raja Vignam Vihanta Malamasya Jagatraya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahika Ganamamu Marudisa Shakalasta Tatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Amsha Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yas Chaksuresa Savita Sagalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Techa Yasyagaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Sutayastapam Si Brahmadi Kita Patakava Desta Jiva Yadhata Matari Bhava Prakatapa Bhava Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrenda Gopa Matavendra Mahoswa Karma Bandhanu Rupa Falabhajan Matanoti Karmani Nidahati Kintucha Bhakti Bhajam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Kroda Kamasa Japanayadi Biti Vatsaya Moha Guru Guru Savya Bhavai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrusim Dharmapurete Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpatarava Dharma Bhumishintamani Ganama Yitrayam Amritam Kataga Anam Natyam Gamanam Amib Masipriyasaki Chiranandam Jyoti Param Apitata Swadyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bhisavadi Shirabi Byasta Sumahanumeda Sardakyu Vavrajati Nahiyatra Prikim Samaya Pajay Swita Dubham Tamaham Ila Gulkam Itiyam Vedanta Ste Santakshiti Virachara Katipaya Shri Guru Pranama prayers Kijay. The spiritual master is receiving benedictions from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. Are from my respectful base at the lotus street is such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting holy name, dancing next to you, singing, playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body and tears flow in his eyes like waves. Are from my respectful base at the lotus street such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always engaged in temple worship of Shishi, Radha, and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship. But Lord, from my respectful base at the lotus street is such a spiritual master. Spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is leaked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are respecting Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful base at the lotus street is such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful base at the lotus street is such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is very dear because he's expert in assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble base at the lotus street is such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance not to Lotus Street as such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, receives the benediction of Krishna without the without the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, I cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. So, if my respectful obeisance at the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 16. Mam kledayat etad ajasya janma. Vidambanam yad vasudeva gehe. Braje chavaso ribayad iva swayam. Purad vyavat sid Yad Anantavirya.
Purad Vyavaditsit Yadananta Virya.
Mam,
Mam.
to me.
To me.
Kledayati.
Vedayati.
It gives me distress.
Give me distress.
Etat.
Etat.
This.
This.
Ajasya.
Ajasya.
Of the unborn.
Of the unborn.
Janma.
Janma.
Birth.
Birth.
Vidambanam.
Vidambanam.
Bewildering.
Bewildering.
Yat.
Yat.
That.
That.
Vasudeva Gehe.
Vasudeva.
In the home of
In
Vasudeva.
the home of Vasudeva.
Rajay.
Rajay.
In Vrindavan.
Vrindavan.
Cha.
Cha.
Also.
Also.
Vasa.
Vasa.
Inhabitation.
Inhabitation.
Ari.
Hari.
Enemy.
Enemy.
Bayat.
Bhaya.
Because of fear.
Because of fear.
Iva.
Iva.
As if.
As
Swayam.
Swayam.
Himself.
Himself.
Purat.
Purat.
From Mathurapuri.
From Madhurapuri.
Vyavasit.
Vyavasa.
Fled.
Fled.
Yat.
Yat.
One who is.
One who is.
Anantavirya.
Anantavirya.
Unlimitedly powerful.
Unlimited.
Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When I think of Lord Krishna, how he was born in the prison house of Vasudeva, although he is unborn, how he went away from his father's protection to Vraja and lived there incognito out of fear of the enemy, and how, although unlimitedly powerful, he fled from Mathura in fear. All these bewildering incidents give me distress. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Because Lord Shri Krishna is the original person from whom everything and everyone has emanated, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Janmadasya Vishnu, Vedanta Sutra 1.1.2. Nothing can be equal to or greater than him. The Lord is supremely perfect, and whenever he enacts his transcendental pastimes as a son, a rival, or an object of enmity, he plays the part so perfectly that even pure devotees like Uddhava are bewildered. For example, Uddhava knew perfectly well that Lord Shri Krishna is eternally existent and can neither die nor disappear for good. Yet he lamented for Lord Krishna. All these events are perfect arrangements to give perfection to his supreme glories. It is for enjoyment's sake. When a father plays with his little son and the father lies down on the floor as if defeated by the son, it is just to give the little son pleasure and nothing more. Because the Lord is all-powerful, it is possible for him to adjust opposites such as birth and no birth, power and defeat, fear and fearlessness. A pure devotee knows very well how it is possible for the Lord to adjust opposite things, but he laments for the non-devotees who, not knowing the supreme glories of the Lord, think of him as imaginary simply because there are so many apparently contradictory statements in the scriptures. Factually, there is nothing contradictory. Everything is possible when we understand the Lord as the Lord and not as one of us, with all our imperfection. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When I think of Lord Krishna, how he was born in the prison house of Vasudeva, although he is unborn, how he went away from his father's protection to Vraja and lived there incognito out of fear of the enemy, and how, although unlimitedly powerful, he fled from Mathura in fear. All these bewildering incidents give me distress. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, Krishna's mutually contradicting qualities confuse the greatest philosophers, so-called greatest philosophers, they're not actually great, and scientists, and atheists, and all nonsense people. But however, the devotees are perfectly equipped with knowledge to understand the Lord's transcendental qualities and how, out of love, he will subordinate himself to his devotees, and how he can have mutually contradicting qualities. A empiricist, one who depends only on what his senses can perceive, has no possibility of understanding Krishna. Absolutely zero. Then the jnanis, the yogis, the Gyanis, and the the Karmis, the Gyanis, and the mystic yogis, they also cannot really understand the Lord. They might understand some things, but they can't really understand the Lord as He is. Why? Because all three of those, Karmis, Gyanis, yogis, are expecting to enjoy or own something. The Karmi wants to be elevated to the heavenly planets for enhanced sense gratification there. The yogis want to attain liberation. Not the yogis. The Gyanis want to obtain liberation in the Brahman effulgence, but they will eventually fall down. And the yogis want to obtain cities and powers, tremendous powers. So because they want something, they're not considered to be genuine devotees, because they are still hankering. And we talked about hankering yesterday. It means that you're basically obsessed to have something in some material asset. So there is ample evidence to prove that God exists. And that evidence is given in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, some of the strongest evidence is the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, verses 8 to 11. And it explains, aham sarva shipabhava matak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. This explains that Krishna is the source of everything material and spiritual. And someone who knows this, they immediately are engaged in devotional service. Then also in the Puranas, it says, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bhavanam Yo Vidadati Kamam. Krishna is the supreme eternal, and living entities are also eternal, but the difference is that Krishna is supplying all the needs of the living entities. So that differentiates him. No one else can be supplying all the needs of all the living entities. Only Krishna can do that. So these are unique qualities. And then the 13th chapter, 23rd verse, and explains that Krishna is in the heart of all living entities. It's Bhagavad Gita. And that he is all-knowing. He knows all the bodies. But a living entity only knows his own body. So Krishna, being in the body of everyone as Paramatma, he knows all bodies. So it's another very unique quality of Krishna that no one else can emulate. And that verse 13:23 says, Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the supersoul. Okay, so then also, 7th chapter, 12th verse, 7th chapter, 12th verse, let's see what that says. Yechaiva satprika bhava rajasas tamasaschaye matai vetitan vedi natva hunti sutemai. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. So Krishna is controlling all the modes of material nature, and he's transcendental to them. That means he's completely independent of the modes. No one else can claim this. Even Brahma and Shiva are sometimes slightly influenced by the modes of material nature. Then the 4th chapter, 14th verse, another very important verse, where Krishna says, Namam limpanti second. Namam limpanti karmani. I'm sorry. Namam karmani limpanti. Name karma phalespare. Shriha. Itimam yo bijanati karma bir nasabadyate. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for the fruits of action. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in the fruitive reactions of work. So, Krishna is not attached to the fruits of work, nor ever entangled by the reactions of work. And no work affects him. No one else can say that in the material world. And then Krishna has these mutually contradicting qualities. This is explained also in detail in the Brahma Samhita. And also it says, the 13th chapter, 14th and 15th verse. Let's see what that says. Thirteenth chapter. It says, everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the Supersoul exists, pervading everything. And in the next verse, the Supersoul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. So, he expands himself infinitely. Therefore, he is present in the body of all living entities, and that means that there are two knowers in the body, the Jiva and Krishna. So, therefore, Krishna knows everything that's happening. This is explained in the 13th chapter, 3rd verse. Chetra gyam chapimam vidhi sarvasya chetra bharata chetra chetra gyayor gyanam yastad gyanam matam mama. Very important verse, which says that there are two knowers in the body. O Skayana Bharata Arjuna, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. And to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. And Prabhupada says, while discussing the subject of the body and the knower of the body, the soul and the supersoul, we shall find three distinct topics of study: the Lord, the living entities, and matter. So there are two knowers in the body, Krishna and us. In every field of activities in every body, there are two souls, the individual soul and the supersoul. Because the Supersoul is the plenary expression of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna says, I am also the knower, but I am not the individual knower of the body. I am the super knower. I am present in every body as the Paramatma or Supersoul. So it says, one who studies the subject matter of the field of activity and the knower of the field very minutely in terms of this Bhagavad Gita can attain to knowledge. Okay. So these mutually contradictory qualities are explained in Ishopanishad and in some verses of the Bhagavad Gita, where it says, again, 13th chapter, verses 16 and 17. It says, the supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. Although the Supersoul appears to be divided among all people, all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. So these are mutually contradictory, let's say, qualities of the Lord. No one else can emulate that. Also, the next verse says, He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge, and He is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. These are all unique qualities of the Lord. Okay. So, next, Krishna possesses all opulences. This is in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 13th chapter, 52nd verse. But it's also Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse number 1. Let's take a look at that. So Krishna says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna, because you are my dear friend. For your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I've already explained. So in this purport, it clearly says that the Lord has these unique qualities. Let's see where it says that. Well, definitely the 10th canto, 13th chapter, 52nd verse. Okay, so in the 10th chapter, 3rd verse, he says, He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the Supreme Lord of all the worlds, He only, undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. So, in the purport, it says, the Lord is described by the word aja, meaning unborn, but He is distinct from the living entities who are described in the second chapter as aja. The Lord is different from the living entities who are taking birth and dying due to material attachment. The conditioned souls are changing their bodies, but His body is not changeable. And when He comes to this material world, He comes as the same unborn. Therefore, in the 4th chapter, it is said that the Lord, by His internal potency, is not under the inferior material energy, but is always in the superior energy. So when it says He is unborn, but yet it appears that He's born of Devaki and Vasudeva. So this completely confuses the Mayavadis and the atheists and the speculators and the empiricists and the scientists and the philosophers. They can't adjust to this. And in other words, it says in this verse, the words Veti Loka Maheshwaram indicate that one should know that Lord Krishna is the supreme proprietor of the planetary systems of the universe. He was existing before the creation, and He is different from His creation. All the demigods were created within this material world, but as far as Krishna is concerned, it is said that He is not created. Therefore, Krishna is different even from the great demigods like Brahma and Shiva, and because He is the creator of Brahma, Shiva, and all other demigods, He is the supreme person of all planets. Sri Krishna is therefore different from everything that is created, and anyone who knows Him as such immediately becomes liberated from all sinful reactions. One must be liberated from all sinful activities to be in the knowledge of the Supreme Lord. Only by devotional service can He be known, and not by any other means, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. One should not try to understand Krishna as a human being, as stated previously. Only a foolish person thinks Him to be a human being. This is again expressed here in a different way. A man who is not foolish, who is intelligent enough to understand the constitutional position of Godhead, is always free from all sinful reactions. If Krishna is known as the son of Devaki, then how can he be unborn? That is also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. When he appeared before Devaki and Vasudeva, he was not born as an ordinary child. He appeared in his original form, and then he transformed himself into an ordinary child. Well, it says he transformed himself into an ordinary child, but there's nothing ordinary about him. It just is that instead of when he appeared first as the son of Devaki, he had 4 arms. He appeared as Lord Vishnu, but then she got scared that if Kamsa would come, he would kill him because he's appearing as the supreme Godhead, right? 4 arms. So then she wanted him to transform into an ordinary human being body. Well, of course, Krishna's body is never ordinary, but he manifested himself in his childhood pastime. And this confused also Kamsa, because when he comes to kill Krishna, Krishna is not there. It's a little girl. It's Durga. And therefore, but still, he's hell-bent on killing a child. So he tries to kill Durga, but that's not possible either. Okay, so these are all mutually contradictory qualities. He was not born as an ordinary child. He appeared in his original form, and then he transformed himself into an ordinary child. Okay, so these are some of the mutually contradictory qualities of Krishna. And especially if you read the 10th chapter, verse number 3, it talks at length about these. Okay, then Krishna possesses all opulences, okay, sad ashraya purnam, all riches, fame, power, beauty, knowledge, renunciation. And next, he possesses all yoga siddhis: anima, lagima, mahima, prapti, prakamya, isitva, and vasitva, and kama vasayita. These are all mystical powers or yoga siddhis, perfections. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, 7th chapter, 26th verse. Okay, then Krishna is perfect and complete and is never diminished, although infinite, perfect and complete unities emanate from him, like universes, people, and so forth. So that's the invocation, Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam. No one can claim to be like that. And also, Krishna is able to mystify everyone. Like, for example, Narada Muni visits Krishna in Dwarka. He's mystified. He sees the same Krishna doing different things with different wives in each of the 16,108 wives that he has. And each one has a palace, and the palace is made out of precious jewels and so many very expensive things. And he has at least 10 sons with each wife, and he's doing things differently, simultaneously. No one can even come close to emulating Krishna's bewildering pastimes. And also, he has, so he mystifies everyone. Just like Sudama Brahmana was also mystified. He goes he hides his purpose for coming to see Krishna, but when he goes back home, he sees that Krishna has blessed his wife to be young and beautiful, is transformed the whole village into opulent palaces, and so many things that it's just unbelievable, but true. Okay. Also, he put Brahma into illusion. Brahma thought he was going to steal Krishna's cows and calves, and he takes him away, and he comes right back again, and is still there. Right? Krishna expanded himself into the cows and cowherd boys. He stole the cowherd boys and the cows. Brahma stole the cowherd boys and the cows. He comes back, they're still there, and their pastimes are uninterrupted. So Brahma was mystified. Then he surrendered to Krishna because he said it's impossible for him to be mystified because he knows everything in the universe. So obviously there are things he doesn't know. He got confused and he surrendered to Krishna. And then Indra also thought he could defeat Krishna. No, he was defeated by the Lord. So this mystical qualities of the Lord, his ability to mystify everyone. Next, there are some further unique qualities of the Lord. That is, he's able to manifest time, and also he can purify anyone, and he, of course, he's transcendental to the modes of material nature, but he has a transcendental body made of Satchitananda Vigraha. He's not a material body. Wherever he appears in the material world, he appears with his internal potency. He's not subject to the external potency at all. And he establishes the samskaras, the obligations, or dutiful activities of all living entities, but he himself is not affected by any of them, and so forth. He has these incredible powers that are just bewildering for people. All right. So then, Krishna has what's called Achintya Shakti. He can turn matter into spirit and spirit back into matter. No one can do this. The scientists are trying to do it now, with spending billions of dollars with their accelerator computers and accelerator tunnels, and cracking atoms, and this thing and that thing, but they're not able to do it, transforming energy into matter, and then matter back into energy. Okay, so this Achintya Shakti is inconceivable powers. And then the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 5th chapter, 20th verse, Idam hi Vishwam Bhagavan Ivetaro. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is himself the cosmos, and still he's aloof from it. From him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated. In him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. So this is very difficult for people to understand, unless you're a devotee. And then for a pure devotee, it says in the purport to 1.5.20, the conception of Mukunda, or Krishna, the giver of liberation, is both personal and impersonal. The impersonal cosmic situation is also Mukunda because it is the emanation of the energy of Mukunda. For example, a tree is a complete unit, whereas the leaves and the branches of the tree are emanated parts and parcels of the tree. The leaves and branches of the tree are also the tree, but the tree itself is neither the leaves nor the branches. The Vedic version that the whole cosmic creation is nothing but Brahman means that since everything is emanating from the Supreme Brahman, nothing is apart from him. Similarly, the part and parcel hands and legs are called the body, but the body as the whole unit is neither the hands nor legs. The Lord is the transcendental form of eternity, cognition, and beauty, and thus the creation of the energy of the Lord appears to be partially eternal, fully knowledgeable, and beautiful. The captivated conditioned souls, under the influence of the external energy, Maya, are therefore entrapped in a network of the material nature. They accept this as all in all, for they have no information of the Lord, who is the primeval cause, nor have they information that the parts and parcels of the body, being detached from the whole body, are no longer the same hand or leg as when attached to the body. If you are not careful using a circular saw, you can easily cut your finger off or cut your leg. Even Janavatsal, he had a serious accident using a handheld saw, and he had a very severe cut in his leg. And he took a picture of it and sent it to me. He said, can you recommend some herbs to heal this? I said, there's no herb that's going to heal that. You got to go to the hospital immediately. Yeah. And well, when I say there's no herb, there obviously are, but I did not suggest that he do that. It's better he go immediately to the hospital, because that was a very serious cut. He's lucky it didn't hit an artery, otherwise he could have died. So you see, it's very easy to hurt yourself. Whenever you use any kind of electric tool, it's very, very easy to hurt yourself. You have to be very careful. And he's an expert, and still he made a mistake like that. Okay. And it continues, it says, and thus the creation of the energy of the Lord appears to be partially eternal, full of knowledge and beautiful also. The captivated conditioned souls, under the influence of the external energy Maya, are therefore entrapped in the network of the material nature. They accept this as all in all, for they have no information of the Lord, who is the primeval cause, nor have they information that the parts and parcels of the body, being detached from the whole body, are no longer the same hand or leg as when attached to the body. Similarly, a godless civilization, detached from the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is just like a detached hand or leg. Such parts and parcels may appear like hands and legs, but they have no efficiency. The devotee of the Lord, Srila Vyasadeva, knows this very well. He is further advised by Srila Narada to expand the idea so that the entrapped, conditioned souls may take lessons from him to understand the Supreme Lord as the primeval cause. Yeah, Krishna cannot cut his leg off or anything like that, right? So he has a superior body. Okay, so these are some points. Now, there's some more what you would call qualities that differentiate Krishna from the devas and the demigods. Number one, Krishna is the undisputed master of the illusory energy. This is Svatasvatara Upanishad 6.7-8, where it says, he does not possess bodily form like that of an ordinary living entity. There is no difference between his body and his soul. He is absolute. All his senses are transcendental. Any one of his senses can perform the action of any other sense. Therefore, no one is greater than him or equal to him. His potencies are multifarious, and thus his deeds are automatically performed as a natural sequence. So, Krishna can make things happen by just thinking about them. He is the supreme controller of everyone. He is not affected by the three modes of material nature. Everyone else, including Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, is to some extent influenced by material modes. Everything is coming from him, or Krishna. He has unlimited powers. Therefore, he is the Supreme Personality Godhead. Okay, so then there are different examples of how Krishna puts people and the demigods into illusion and so forth. Then also, Krishna is self-effulgent. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagananda koti kotishvasesha vasadadi vibhuti vinam tad brahma niskalam anantamasesa bhutam govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. Our worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose effulgence is the source of the non-differentiated Brahman mentioned in the Upanishads, being differentiated from the infinity of glories of the mundane universe, appears as the indivisible, infinite, limitless truth. Okay, so he's the light of the sun and moon. He's the light. He's the cause of light all over the universe. So in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, 12th verse. Okay. So also Krishna has three stages of knowing him. There's the impersonal stage, there's the Paramatma stage, and Bhagavan stage. Anyway, these are all unique qualities of the Lord that differentiate him from others. Okay, so what time is it now?
7:07.
All right. So, in the material world, this is a verse, Srimad Bhagavatam 7.7.42. Every materialist desires to achieve happiness and diminish his distress, and therefore he acts accordingly. Actually, however, one is happy as long as one does not endeavor for happiness. As soon as one begins his activities for happiness, his conditions of distress begin. Whoa. This is confidential knowledge. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, every conditioned soul is bound by the laws of material nature, as described in Bhagavad Gita, Prakriti Kriyamana Nigunai Karmani Sarvasaha, Bhagavad Gita 3.27. Everyone has achieved a certain type of body given by material nature according to the instructions of the Supreme Personality Godhead. And that's a verse also. Ishwara Sarvabhutanam Hirdese Rajuna Tistati Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Yantarudrani Mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. That's Bhagavad Gita 1861. So, because the Lord is in the heart of everyone, he knows the desires of everyone. And the Lord gives the facilities with which to work according to one's ambitions in different grades of bodies. The body is just like an instrument by which the living entity moves accordingly to false desires for happiness and thus suffers the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease in different standards of life. Everyone begins its activities with some plan and ambition, but actually from the beginning of one's plan to the end, one does not derive any happiness. On the contrary, as soon as one begins acting according to his plan, his life distress immediately, in other words, he immediately feels this distress. He suffers the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease in different standards of life because of these false desires for happiness. And then Everyone begins with some plan and ambition, but actually from the beginning of one's plan to the end, one does not derive any happiness. On the contrary, as soon as one begins acting according to his plan, his life of distress immediately begins. Therefore, one should not be ambitious to dissipate the unhappy conditions of life, for one cannot do anything about them. Ahankara vibhudatma kataham iti manyate, Bhagavad Gita 3.27. Although one is acting according to false ambitions, he thinks he can improve his material conditions by his activities. The Vedas enjoin that one should not try to increase happiness or decrease distress, for this is futile. Tasyaiva hetu prayate kovida. One should work for self-realization, not for economic development, which is impossible to improve without endeavor. One can get the amount of happiness and distress for which he is destined, and one cannot change this. Therefore, it is better to use one's time for advancement in the spiritual life of Krishna consciousness. One should not waste his valuable life as a human being. It is better to utilize this life for developing Krishna consciousness without ambitions for so-called happiness. Well, it's a heavy message from Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so this is not only wisdom, but also it's pointing out some of the unique qualities of Krishna that no one else can emulate. And finally, I'm going to just read one more thing. The distinction between the living entities and the Lord is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.87.30. And it says, O Supreme Eternal, if the embodied living entities were eternal and all-pervading like you, then they would not be under your control. But if the living entities are accepted as minute energies of your Lordship, then they are at once subject to your supreme control. Therefore, real liberation entails suffering by the living entities to your control, and that suffering will make them happy. In that constitutional position only can they be controllers. Therefore, men with limited knowledge who would advocate the monistic theory that God and living entities are equal in all respects are actually guided by a faulty and polluted opinion. The Supreme Lord knows, Krishna, is the only controller, and all living entities are controlled by him. These living entities are a superior energy because the quality of their existence is one and the same with the Supreme, but they are never equal to the Lord in quantity of power. While exploiting the gross and subtle inferior energy matter, the superior energy, living entity, forgets his real spiritual mind and intelligence. This forgetfulness is due to the influence of matter upon the living entity. But when the living entity becomes free from the influences of the illusory material energy, he attains the stage called mukti, or liberation. The false ego, under the influence of material illusion, thinks, I am matter and material acquisitions are mine. His actual position is realized when he is liberated from all material ideas, including the conception of his becoming one in all respects with God. Therefore, one may conclude that the Gita confirms the living entity to be only one of the multi-energies of the Lord, and when this energy is freed from material contamination, it becomes fully Krishna conscious. Okay, so these are some of, it's a lot more, but these are some of the main points that differentiate Krishna from all others. When we begin to understand these things, if we're able to assimilate them through repetition, then we'll be able to explain to people in a very direct and, let's say, clear way that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without any doubt. See? So, in this verse, 1087:30, basically it's saying, if one is, if we can become God, that means that we become completely independent. But if we look at our situation, we are not independent. We're completely dependent. That's the proof that we're not God. God is not someone that becomes God. God is always God. He doesn't have to become God by doing this. We try and elevate ourselves by doing different things, right? Fasting or doing austerities or just chanting or something. But Krishna is always Krishna. He's always in a state of perfection. He doesn't have to become anything. Okay. So are there any questions?
So this one in the same purport, Maharaj, with the help of material energies.
With the help of?
This is more of another statement by Prabhupada to confirm that men can never be equal to God. So with the help of material energies, the living beings are also creating something, but none of their creations are equal or superior to the creations of the Lord.
Yes.
The human being may create a small, playful Sputnik or the satellite, and may throw it into the outer space. But that does not mean he can create a planet like the Earth or Moon, or and float it in the air as the Lord does. Men with poor fund of knowledge claim to be equal to the Lord. They are never equal to the Lord. There is never to be.
Yes, beautiful. Where is that statement?
It's in the same
13:22. 7:42.
7:42.
No. This is one of the purports you were just reading, and then
Seven.
1:5:20.
What?
1:5:20.
So it's Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. 1:5:20. Idam hi Vishwam Bhagavan Ivataro. Yeah, that's a very, very important verse. The Krishna is the cosmos. People are completely, 1:5:20.
Yes, 1:5:20 in the last paragraph.
Yeah. The human being and all other living beings are products of his internal energies.
Yes, further continuing.
Nice. Okay.
So, eloquently
No compromise.
No compromise. You don't have to compromise. You have perfect knowledge. Yeah, one thing I didn't cover, I'll do it tomorrow. It's called Moksha Lila. These are statements in the scriptures that are specifically put there to trick the demons to believe that Krishna is an ordinary person. So we'll discuss that tomorrow. Haribol. You want to leave?
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
Bandha Muhi Savadhana Mate
Bandha Muhi Savadhana Mate
Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatoriya Jai
Nanara Prasade Bhai E Bhavato Diya Jai
Krishna Prapti Ho Jahan Hoite
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya
Guru Mukha Padma Vaikya Chitete Koriya Aikya
Arna Kori Ho Mane Asha
Arana Koriyo Mane Asa
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha
Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Asa
Chakshudan Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Jaksudan Dila Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Divya Gyan Hirde Prakashito
Dayan De Prakasito
Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jaite
Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate
Vede Gai Jahara Charito
Vedigai Janara Charito
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu
Lokenath Lokera Jivana
Lokenath Lokera Jivana
Ha Prabhu Karo Daya Deho More Pad Chaya
Aha Prabhu Korodoya Deha More Padachaya
Ebe Jas Gushuk Tribhuana
Ebeas Kusikhi Bhuvana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine
Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhar
Gadadhar
Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Bolo Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Hare
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Bolo Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai
Jai Hari Bol Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhakti Siddhanta Bhakti Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Vacha. The lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet, revered one reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean with material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus feet. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic Brahma emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor, and Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful on us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavan, Ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya